Hi everyone, it's Sarah Black Spiker here. Today's video was inspired by two separate memes that I've seen, and they were both brilliant. First one, I don't know who the author was, but it said something in terms like, when making hard choices, when making hard decisions, all it takes is 20 seconds of courage. 20 seconds, that's all it requires. 20 seconds of being really brave, and then you see how your life will change. Second one was actually a picture that Adam Urbanski posted, I believe it was yesterday actually, where he said, make this an easy week by making hard decisions. And I thought both of them were brilliant. And as somebody who has made my fair share of hard choices in life, I wanted to take a moment and really share with you a couple of things that not only have helped me, but that I have learned and now are some of the tools that are available to the clients that I get to support, and also tools that I get to teach my own kids in their own decision-making processes. So the first tool, let me backtrack a little bit. Hard decisions that I'm referring here to, there's no scale to compare what is a hard decision for somebody and what's an easy one for another person. We also need to understand that different people process decision making differently. Some of us dive right in and live by the philosophy of, I'm gonna leap and I'm gonna figure it out as I go. Other people, they require time. They require space to really weigh all the options, to weigh pros and cons, to play out different scenarios. Neither one of them is right or wrong. It simply requires you to understand how you operate and what supports you. Now that said, if of course you start noticing a pattern that decision-making process that you have been applying has not quite got you to where you want it to be, then maybe it's time for re-evaluation. So that said, re-evaluation, right? What are some of the things that you could start putting in place? Well, when I look back on my life, one of the most monumental and one of the decisions that has put me on a completely different trajectory was the decision to move from Slovenia to New York City when I was 20 years old. I barely spoke English at the time. It was a mix of adrenaline as well as complete terror. I have been to the States once before to play on a tournament, and I was really not impressed with what I saw, and I would be completely fine by never coming back. But yet there I was, coming back, making New York City, Brooklyn to be more exact, my new home at 20 years old by myself to join a basketball team and start a college. So at the time, looking back, it was pure intuition. I don't remember really weighing any options really heavily. I don't remember doing any future pacing or, let's trust myself, what would my future self do. Maybe that was all folded into this intuitive decision making, simply following my intuition. But with the years and with the mileage and additional education and heightened awareness, a lot of those intuitive hits became much more conscious, so to speak. Now, before I dive in, let me just make a distinction that there is intuition and there are instincts. Instincts are designed to keep us alive. Instincts would prefer you to stay under a warm, fuzzy blanket, under a glass dome, and probably not move anywhere out of your comfort zone because it could be dangerous, you could get killed, and so on and so forth. So those are instincts. Instincts kick in when we look across the street both ways before we cross it. instincts are kicking in when we're about to dive into the next opportunity. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to weigh in the options? Even though we know that what's on the other side, it's better for us, it's better for our environment or relationship or our business or whatever it is. It's like, are you really sure you need to do this? Let's just stay here, let's stay safe. Intuition, on the other hand, it's kind of a whisper on of your heart, whisper of your soul. Sometimes you feel it in your belly, sometimes you feel it in your heart, like a fluttering of a butterfly, would some people describe it. And it really requires you to quiet your mind to even hear it. But it is really persistent. You know, when intuition kicks in and you try to shove it aside and like, no, not listening to you, it has its way of re-emerging and getting its point across, and it's gonna get you to where you're destined to be one way or another. Sometimes kicking and screaming, but then why would we make it so difficult for ourselves, right? So, as I mentioned, you know, there are a couple of tools that I have mastered, and I have learned and I'm still in the process of mastering. One of them is so-called future pacing. So future pacing is one of the most powerful ways to make decisions, and those hard decisions, without fear, without anger, without resentment, without all those lower vibrational emotions that are emerging. But here's the beautiful thing about it. You know, on the surface, it is really simple exercise to do. You simply close your eyes and you center yourself and you envision yourself in the time and space sometime in the future where the thing that you're deciding about, when the thing that you're desiring and you're wanting so hard and you're working for it is already so, it's already done. In that example, for me, it would be, well, I'm already in New York, I'm already living there. How would I make that decision from that space? For somebody in business, you know, a lot of times it comes with investing in yourself, investing in whatever next step will be. And that can bring a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work? What if it's not the right thing for me? What if the money runs out? What if I burn out? What if I run out the energy? There's a ton of very reasonable arguments for you to stay where you are. However, when you apply this future pacing strategy and you put yourself in a space and time where this is already so, it alleviates all of this clutter and it allows you to make a decision based on as if it's already done and based on where is that you want to go, and then turning back and you just simply connect the dots. It also on the energetic level, because if it's already so, right, there's no more pressure for you to get there. It alleviates that pressure that you're putting on yourself, so your mind is clearer. You are able to tune into your intuition in a much easier way and then make the decision based on that. Like I said, on the surface, it's a very simple strategy. Once you dive into it, yes, it will require of you to probably take a pen and paper, and as you are envisioning the time and space when everything is already done, you will notice what else is coming up, what other doubts and fears are emerging. The second part, the second strategy, the second rule to live by, so to speak, for me is simply choosing to trust myself and choosing to trust the process. And I know this is a very hard muscle to train, and a lot of times, you know, this trust and choosing to trust can be really stretched thin. But the thing is, I have learned along the way is that, yeah, it simply comes down to a choice. Because we can choose to continuously doubt in ourselves or we can choose to trust, but we have no capacity to focus on both. Same with positive and negative. You can focus on the positive and there simply is no capacity for negative. Another thing with this choice thing, right? One of my mentors actually sat me down one time when I was filled with doubt and agony and anxiety. And she asked me, it's like, well, when you wake up in the morning, do you get up? Do you stay in bed? Do you require somebody to pull the sheets off and get you standing up and walk you to the bathroom and do whatever you need to do to get kids through the doors and in school? I was like, no, I do that. It's like, well, so obviously you're trusting yourself. So you trust yourself or you don't. And it was kind of one of those, oh wow, oh shoot, I did not even realize that. Awareness. So simply choosing to trust yourself. The beautiful thing about that, however, when we are making those leaps of faith, and it can be hard to trust the process, or we have, it happens to me all the time when I would try to negotiate with the universe, like, I will surrender into the flow, I will surrender in the process, but, and then there are my list of commands and demands, right? It doesn't work that way. But again, it is a simple choice. However, that said, sorry, these are my dogs in the background. They're barking. Obviously there's something going on there. With choosing to trust yourself, sometimes we need to borrow the trust from somebody, whether it's a family member or a mentor or a coach or a friend. It is really powerful to have a backing of those who see you in different light than you can see yourself, who believe in you when you forget to believe in yourself, who trust in you when you forget to trust yourself. And you can literally lean on that, and you can borrow from them until you build that muscle for yourself and you trust yourself again. A side note, however, when we're talking about friends and family in particular, you know how I said, instincts want to keep you safe? Same is with family and friends. So be mindful. No judgment. Just be mindful of who you're sharing your big ideas and big dreams with, and whose advice are you listening. Because just like in any relationship with family and friends, they too want to keep you safe. And they too understand that if you stretch yourself too thin, if you leap for something that no one has done before, that is brand new to you, it's gonna be stressful. It's gonna be uncertain. It's gonna be, it's gonna bring up a ton of things that you're not even aware are there. In some case, they might be afraid that you will move on without them, that you will outgrow them. So of course they want to keep you safe. They want to keep you contained at wherever it is that you are, because oftentimes it's comfortable for them. From that perspective, just be mindful of that and be discerning of whose advice you're listening, and who are the people that you can find in and look up to and ask for advice and lean on when you need to. And it doesn't mean you need to let them go. You could have more than one person. You can have different people for different things, and that is beautiful. What a blessing if you do have that. Third thing that oftentimes seems to be helpful for those of us who do need to weigh in options, who do need time to process things, who do need to understand pros and cons, is to simply lean in the fear. Lean in and live out your worst case scenario. What it means is exactly that. What is the worst thing that can happen? Allow yourself to bring it up. Allow yourself to think about it, visualize it, envision it with a discerning mind that, again, when you are allowing it to emerge, now you have something that you can be with, you can notice, you can get curious about, you can process, you can transform, and you can transcend all those fears. And it works in layers, right? When you bring up the worst case scenario, okay, great, awesome, love it when that happens. What is the worst thing that can happen after that? What is the worst thing that can happen after that? Am I gonna die? Will I be alienated? Will I be homeless? Will my kids be kicked out of school? Will all of us be, I don't know, whatever worst case scenarios, right? and then just again be with it, lean into it, even write it on a paper, and you will find how oftentimes it those big fears that now became snowballs dissolve back to just nothingness when you simply allow them to be, and you alchemize that energy back into the energy of faith and trust, when you commit to yourself on a whole new level, because your intuitive hit is already letting you know that whatever it is that you're desiring is already so, it's already waiting for you. So the only thing that is on you then is to create a space and step into the version of yourself, step into the space, realign yourself vibrationally with that which is that you're desiring. You know, I was listening to Dr. Michael Beckwith's speech the other day, and I was touched so deeply when he was articulating something that so many of us already knew, and I personally could not quite point with a finger what is that I was feeling and what was the disconnect. But in his words, what he conveyed was that at the end, right, the old way of manifesting, the old way of making those decisions was to visualize whatever we're after, whatever it is that we're wanting, and then taking action so that we can create them, paraphrasing his ideas. The new way of manifesting, and the way that I have lived my whole life, unconsciously and now on a conscious level, is to match myself to that which is already there, already waiting. To use the words of Abraham Hicks, it's already in the vortex. I simply need to tune myself to a proverbial radio station where that which is that I desire is already there, so that it can be transmitted and it can be brought into my own reality, solidified in the 3D reality. So here's the puppy. You want to say hi to puppy? Speaking of solidifying things into reality, this little one totally manifested herself in our life a year ago. And you know what? Let me share you a story how that went. In January of 2020, I felt this inkling that I wanted another puppy. I needed a puppy in my life. We already had a dog, 9-year-old, lovey family, member of our family, you know. But I just had this inkling. It's like, oh, having another puppy would be so cool, and it would be really helpful for him because, you know, as he was starting to slow down, and I could see that he was getting a little depressed. Then a friend of mine got a puppy for her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need this in my life. So I presented the idea to my husband, and he's like, absolutely not, no way. I was like, please. He's like, no one needs a puppy. I was like, listen, no one needs kids either, but here we are, we have 2 amazing ones, and we can't imagine our life without them. Here we are having a dog, and we can't imagine our life without them. So, one more puppy? Come on, they need home, right? He's like, oh, I guess, you know, kind of this, fine, whatever. So off I set to look dogs for adoptions, puppy for adoptions, and I sent out a couple of applications, did not hear anything back. And there was this particular one, I again sent out the application, didn't hear anything back. And by that time it was Valentine's Day, it was Friday night. Usually I turn my phone off at, I don't know, in the evenings. I don't look at my emails, but again, there was this intuitive hit, like check your email. I have all these notifications here. Check your email. It was about 10 o'clock at night or so. And I was like, fine, I'll check my email. So sure enough, there's an email from a rescue place that said, you know, the puppy that you applied for has already been matched for the adoption drive, but she does have a sister. They look almost identical, and here's her sister. Would you be interested in her? Yeah, of course I would. And there was a caveat. It was Friday night. The following day, we were supposed to go to Pennsylvania for the weekend, and we had an appointment for 4 o'clock. We would have to be in Pennsylvania at 4 o'clock. The adoption drive was in New Jersey, and we were scheduled to meet our puppy at 1:30, between 1:30 and 2 p.m. If you do the math, unless you're driving a plane, there's no way to be in those two places in the time frame that we had available. So I emailed them back and I said, listen, we already have plans. Would it be possible to put a puppy on hold and we can stop by on Monday? They said, well, no guarantees. First come, first serve. I was like, shoot. Okay, fine, we'll be there. Dropped everything. Literally dropped everything. I told my husband about it and he's like, okay, fine, I guess we can make it work. We're gonna go and check. We're gonna go and see. It's like, fine, that's all I'm asking of you. Keep an open mind. All I'm asking of you to go and see. That was it. Because I already knew that it was way out of his comfort zone. So the final decision, it was left to him. If he said no, I would honor his no. So the next morning we are packing our car and he already put a crate in a car. And I'm thinking, if we're only going to check, why would he put a crate in his car, in our car? Well, in his mind, he was already preparing for one of the possible scenarios. That was already the next step. Long story short, we got there. The line was huge. We fell in love with the puppy. We put a puppy in his lap. The puppy did not leave his lap for this whole time. She came home with us. We were late in Pennsylvania. My husband and the kids went out for the appointment. I stayed behind with the puppy and our other dog, and the rest is history. But the reason why I wanted to share this story with you is, first and foremost, for many people, it's not an easy decision to add a member of their family. It's a huge commitment. There were so many different ways that things could have turned, even with the adoption, right? Checking, if I didn't check that email at 10 o'clock at night, I would never have received an invitation to come get her the following morning. But then here's the key I want you to hear. Of course there was resistance. Of course we had to rearrange the entire weekend. We had to rearrange and literally drop everything to make it happen. But here's the thing, right? That piece of the resistance, what if instead of seeing it as a sign of, well, it's not meant to be because it's not aligning with our plans that we already have, what if we give ourselves a permission to see that piece of resistance simply as a test of our commitment? How committed are we to receiving what we say we want to receive? And how willing are we to see that a no is not necessarily a no forever? It could simply be, hey, you know what? Either not now, or hey, actually I have something better in plan for you. Are you open to receive that instead? So that's my transmission for today. We were talking about three particular scenarios, three particular strategies that I have used my whole life. At first subconsciously and now very consciously, on making difficult decisions. What helps me say yes to things that most people would absolutely say no to, and my ego wants to say no to. They're very simple to deploy, very simple to utilize, to always have in your toolbox, and there are also strategies, like I said, I'm not using just for myself. I'm teaching them to my kids, and I am also teaching them with my clients. And when we are in a conversation with potential clients, those are some of the strategies that we help them through, not to convince them to do something, but to really make sure that whatever choices they are making are in alignment with what is that they're out to create, to receive, to experience, and then simply bridging that gap. So if you have any questions, please do let me know. I'm here to support you. I'm here to inspire and motivate you. If you need a kick in the butt, we can do that. And if this was simply a permission slip that you thought you needed, I hope you can receive that as well. I will definitely talk to you soon. Until then, here's to your success, expansion, and peace of mind, and a lot of love and light from the lower Hudson Valley. As you can see, the birds are chirping, the sun is shining, life is glorious. Love you.